Okay, I'm going to start today a little different. I'm going to talk a bit about my Giriraj here. So, as you know, I came to India in 1970 with Srila Prabhupada. And I didn't return back to the United States until 2005. So from 1970 until 2005, I was in different parts of the world doing preaching work. However, I was, I was getting older, and I was worried about, how I would be able to sustain myself, because one thing that I have never done is that I have never taken one penny from Srila Prabhupada. So if you come to the temple, there are 4 types of devotees who take up devotional service. And who can name one? 4 types of people who surrender to Krishna. Yes, someone who's in search of wealth, someone who is materially distressed, someone who's inquisitive, and someone who's in search of knowledge of the absolute truth. So these personalities, these 4 types of people, they can become a devotee of Krishna. It's possible, and Shastra gives us examples of this. Just like what did Dhruva Maharaj want? He wanted wealth. He wanted a kingdom better than his father's. So he surrendered to Krishna. And who was in distress? Gajendra. So yes, he was being bitten by the crocodile, and he held up a lotus flower and surrendered to Krishna. And who was inquisitive or curious? Who is the example? The sages at Nayama Sharanga, they wanted to know how they could prolong the advent of Kali Yuga. And who wanted knowledge of the absolute truth? Who wanted this knowledge? The 4 Kumaras. They were so determined to get this knowledge, they went right up to Lord Vishnu's door and banged on his door to get this knowledge. So among all of these, it's better to be someone who's in search of knowledge, to be inquisitive. If you are in search of wealth, money, so many devotees have come, they get some money, and then they feel relieved, and then they go away. Or you're feeling some material distress, and you can relieve yourself of this distress, and you can stay and continue your devotional service, but many times they leave again. So it's better to be on the topmost platform, and your desire is only to have knowledge of the absolute truth. So as I said, I had left America in 1970, and I went back in 2005. So up until this time in America, I had no kind of work history. So they have a social program in America that if you work for 10 years, you get a certain amount of points, and depending on how much money you have given back to this Social Security system, you will get every month for the rest of your life this money. You will get some money back every month. And so, as I said, I never took any money from Prabhupada, and I had to think of my future because I couldn't do this. So I went back to America, and I had a job. So fortunately, I was working at a devotee company, although the owner of the company, he didn't treat any of his employees very nicely because he thought because he was rich, he looked down on us. But anyway, I stayed there and I worked in this company, and every year you get a certain number of points, and when you have collected 40 points, I think it's 40 points, then you become eligible to collect Social Security. So I had been working, and when you reach a certain age, also 62, you can begin collecting, or the longer you wait, the more money you'll get. But in my case, I became eligible for Social Security. I had enough points, and I was at the right age. And so at that time, I had a heart attack. And I had made a vow that if I get sick, I would immediately come here to stay in Vrindavan. So I went to the hospital, and I went to the emergency room, and fortunately for that, they had to accept me into the hospital. But I didn't have any money. And so I told them I'm having a heart attack. And so they immediately given me these tests, and they said, well, you already had the heart attack, but now we have to do an operation on you. And so they did implants of stents. They put them through my going up into my heart area, and they put 3 stents into that area. And I was very weak, but I went to the Social Security office and I applied for Social Security, and once everything was completed, then the next month I would begin getting my money from the government. So I came here to Vrindavan, and I was very fortunate that one devotee, where I'm staying now in the MVT, he had an apartment there, and he let me stay in his apartment, and in course of time he died in America. He was in New York and he died in America, but he made it his dying wish that I could remain in his apartment. So in this way, Krishna was looking after me. I was very weak, and I was taking nitroglycerin tablets. If you know, these are special pills for people who have a heart attack. You take this, and then this gives your heart a jolt, and you can recover from mild heart attacks. And across the street from Krishna Balaram Temple, now all of the shops are clothing shops, but there was one shop that was being run by a gentleman named Bihari Lal. So some of you older devotees may know Bihari Lal. So over the years, he had become our friends. He grew up from the beginning when Krishna Balaram Temple was being built. And he lives in Madhavan Colony, just not so far from here, just off of the Parikram Road, where that, what is it, the name, there's a hotel there, Gopal Hotel or something like that. But anyway, he lives there with his family, and of course now his family has grown. But around the corner from him, going towards the Pepsi building, the Pepsi building, they called it the Pepsi building because it was painted blue and white like the Pepsi Cola bottle. Now it's a different color, so you might not be able to recognize it. But he took me to this one ashram there, and there's one devotee who stays there. His name is Kishori, and he stays there for two purposes. One is that his Guru Maharaj, he is from the Nimbarka Sampradaya, his samadhi is there. So his Guru Maharaj was at Rath Yatra Festival some years before, and right in front of Lord Jagannath, he died. And so they brought him and they made his samadhi there. And in the basement, which was all dug out of the earth, they had a small temple there, and they have a Giriraj deity there, and they've been doing worship for 1,200 years for this deity, 1,200 years. And so they allowed me to go down and have darshan, and they invited me. They said, tomorrow you come for lunch. Of course, Kishori doesn't speak English. He speaks only Hindi, so communicating through Bihari Lal. And so I said, yes, I will come, but I want to make something for Giriraj, and I want to offer something for Giriraj. And so they agreed, said, yes, you can cook something. So I was the first outsider, especially white person, in 1,200 years to cook for Giriraj. And so I went back to my apartment and I made sweet rice. So here in India, when you have sweet rice, normally it's hot because sweet rice is the last thing they cook. But sweet rice should be served cold. So I cooked it the night before, and I put in raisins and shaved almonds and saffron, and of course a proper amount of sugar and milk, and it was very, very cold. And so the next day at lunchtime I took that and gave it to the pujari, and when he offered their Giriraj his bhoga, his lunch, they gave my sweet rice at the same time. And so after, of course, making the offering, everyone enjoyed, took part in the prasadam. And that night, in the pujari's dream, in Kishori's dream, his Giriraj came to him, and he says, Gopal, he is my bhakta. And now I want to live in his house. And I want you to make arrangements for me to live with him. And also tell him his sweet rice is very delicious. So Kishori went to Biharilal and told him what had happened in his dream. And so they went on his Biharilal's scooter out to Govardhan. And they got Giriraj Shila and brought it back. And they offered me the Shila, but I was not in good health, and I didn't have the strength to take care of Giriraj. So I told him I cannot take Giriraj. And so they took Giriraj back to Kishori's ashram, and in a few days I was in Krishna Balaram Mandir, and I was standing in front of Krishna and Balaram, and I fell down in the temple, and I couldn't move. So my body had become paralyzed from my feet all the way up my entire body. I couldn't move anything. I could move my head and I could talk, but I couldn't move or do anything with my body. And so they made arrangements for me to go to Bhaktivedanta Hospital in Bombay. And so I got there, and the doctors, of course, they were all devotees, so that was very good. But they took me into the hospital, and they didn't know what was wrong with me either, so they had to do tests. So they had some idea it was a neurological illness, and so they did tests, and I found myself in a situation where I didn't know what was going to happen to me. Maybe I would be paralyzed for the rest of my life, and I couldn't move. But my will to continue to preach was there, and so near the hospital there's one of our ISKCON temples, Mira Road Temple, and so on Prabhupada's disappearance day, they put me on a gurney. Gurney is one of the beds that they push patients around in, and they pushed me over to the temple, and just laying there, and I couldn't move, but I could preach, and so I preached to the devotees there and told them some of Srila Prabhupada's leelas and such as that, and I just said, okay, this is going to be the way my life is going to be. You have to make best use of a bad bargain. But they took me back and they continued doing tests. And after about 1 month, they were able to find out what was wrong with me. So I had a virus, which is very, 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 very rare. Maybe one person in 500,000 people will get this virus. And so once they knew what the virus was, there was medicines that could be taken to get rid of this virus. And so the medicine, I don't even remember the name of the medicine, but I had to take 6 IVs, with a drip of medicine a day, 6 IVs a day for 7 days. And fortunately, this happened here in India, but that same medicine in America and in India also is very expensive. It's $35,000 for one, bag of medicine. And India it's cheaper, so it would have the cost would have been astronomical. And even here, it was very expensive. But the doctors, they donated their time to me without any charge, but the medicine had to be paid for. So and also, if I had to go to another hospital because they didn't have the equipment to do a test, then I had to pay that money out of pocket. And so after this 1 month's time, I started to get a little bit of feeling in my feet. That's why now I'm using a cane, because when you've experienced your feet go to sleep, it feels like pins and needles are in your feet. And so my feet are like that always. So I don't have feeling in my feet and also in my hands. But still I'm able to move around. And so once I became mobile enough, I was coming back to Vrindavan. But what had happened also while I was in the hospital, Giriraj, here at my friend's house, came again in his dream, and he told Kishori, he says, Gopal, he is coming back to Vrindavan, and you tell him I made him sick because he won't let me stay in his house. So when I came back, they told me that story, and then of course, when Krishna forces himself on you, you have to oblige him. So I took Giriraj into my house, and I didn't know how, to worship very, very good, and I had just a cheap little brass asana for him to sit on, and I would paint the tilak on his face, and he didn't look very nice and everything. And then one day, this will hopefully increase your belief in God, in Krishna. So Giriraj, he spoke to me on many occasions, and at that time I had a big ring. I had a gold ring that I had bought in Thailand many years ago, and gold prices was very high and valuable. And then he said to me, he says, "What's that on your finger?" And then I looked at this, and then he says, "How come you have such a nice jewel and I don't have anything?" And so then I made it a decision. I went to Loei Bazaar, and I sold my ring, and it was quite valuable, maybe $3,000 US, and I got the money in rupees, and then I went to one deity dressmaker and had him make some turbans for Giriraj, and one Russian devotee made eyes, and I got some tilak for Giriraj, and then I tried to dress him nicer. And of course, every day I would give him sweet rice. I would make sweet rice and give him this sweet rice. And it continued like this. And then one day again, he spoke to me, he says, "What's my name?" And then I says, "Your name is Giriraj." He says, "Yes. What does Raja mean?" And then I says, "Raja means king." And he said, "Well, what does a king wear?" And he says, "Yeah, the king wears a crown." And so, yes. And he says, I want a crown." So again, he was giving me these demands, and I was very poor, didn't have any money, and at the same time, he asked me several times. He says, "I want to go to Cambodia." He says, "I want to go to Cambodia because in Cambodia they have a Hindu temple, which is called Angkor Wat, and it's the biggest Hindu temple in the world. Now it's all in decay. It's ruins, and it was built thousands of years ago. And so he says, "I want to go there to Cambodia. I want to go and see Angkor Wat," and then I just sort of ignore that, and then he would come again and say, "I want to go," and then I just, and again the thing was money. I don't have any money. How can I go to this foreign country? And then he came again, and he said that, "You never listen to me." So he told me, he says, "I want to go." So then I said, "Okay, I'll take you to Angkor Wat." And at that time, I was having a very hard time walking. And at Angkor Wat, because it's all ruins, there's so many stairs you have to go up. And he says, "Yes." So I have I have a little box that I carry Giriraj in. So I put him in his box and hobbled around the ruins of this Vishnu temple and showed him everything there. And then he took me to this one place, and then there was a stone on the ground that had fallen off of the side of the building, and it was a picture of Krishna driving Arjuna on the chariot, and Arjuna was standing in the back with his arrows, and Krishna was driving, and they were shooting arrows, and the stone was just laying there, and he says, "Look there." So, I took him back, and then we came back to Vrindavan, and I would look on the internet, and I would see many nice jewels and stones, some valuable jewels and stones, and I could only in my mind imagine having these stones that I could give to Giriraj. And so just like in Krishna book, you read the story where the lady had the fruit and she gave the fruit to Krishna, and then when she looked, her basket was full of gems. And so Krishna knew that I wanted these jewels for him, so he provided them. So you can see today he's wearing some. He's got his crown, but these pearls come from Tahiti, and rubies come from Burma, and the emeralds come from Colombia, and then there's sapphire, blue sapphire, aquamarine, everything. So, this is my meditation in the morning to decide which crown or which turban Giriraj is going to wear, and dress him nicely. And this here, this is called oud, this oil. And this oil comes from a special tree, and this tree has some kind of decay or some kind of microbes growing inside of it, and the best comes from Cambodia, and most of the trees, they are endangered, so it's very, very, very expensive oil. Maybe if you look and you see on the internet oud, UHAD, like that, then you can see. And so I wanted the best for Giriraj, so I buy him this, and I try to give him every day tulsi. He loves tulsi, and when available, lotus flowers, and every day also sweet rice. At least give him some sweet rice. So he said that he would take care of me, but he kind of tricked me. So it's not that he's taking care of me. I'm taking care of him because my whole day is consumed cooking for him and making designs. I make a design for these crowns. My crowns are not made from gold. I want gold, but I don't have money to buy. But someday I will get the money and I will make beautiful gold crowns with more jewels. So, all of my wealth, any money that I get, I don't spend on myself. I give to Krishna. So you should, before you go, you should each come and look at Giriraj.
Thank you for the meeting. Thank you. Such amazing story, unbelievable. Yeah. It's just unbelievable. I never heard anybody has such a story of the deep.
So this you hear stories like this from the Shastras, but your belief, in Krishna and the love you have for him, why can't Krishna talk to you? So
Why he is not talking to me?
yes, but he's very good, and if he wants something, he'll tell me, I want this. And then, so even though I can't give it to him immediately, if in my mind I meditate on giving him these nice things, then he's also happy. This is one type of devotion, manaseva. So just like yeah, so my next is that now I have only silver for his throne and plates and arti things, but I want also gold. So if I want, then someday if I get, I will make everything from gold. So now my one of my big worries is that because I'm old and I don't know how much longer I will live, and if I die, there are so many greedy, untrustful devotees that may come and try and steal Giriraj's jewels. So I'm looking for a trustworthy person who will care for him in such a nice way. So, yes, you have a question?
Yeah, it said the spiritual master never gives a disciple an order that he feels he cannot execute. So can the same thing be said that if the deity asks the devotee to do something, well, along with that request comes the empowerment to do that?
Yes. Everything, not a blade of grass can move without the sanctioning of the Supreme Lord. So the limitations are things that we impose on ourselves. So no, there's no. So don't have an I can't do that. No. Just I will do it. Yes.
Thank you for your nice experience. How do you understand that it's really God talking to you? You see him in person or you just perceive?
Sometimes Giriraj will come in my sleep and tell me, and sometimes he would speak to me. So you know, many times Krishna would talk to his devotees in their dreams. So it's not some hallucination. So some people will say, "Oh, it doesn't happen. It can't. That can't happen." But you can't put any type of restriction on God. You know, He's capable of doing anything, right? And so this way, if he asks me to go out and steal money from stores and smoke marijuana, you know, then that's not Krishna talking. But he just like when he told my friend Kishori in his dream, "You tell Gopal that I made him sick." Right? So because of that, I'm still inconvenienced, but I don't care.
So his name is Gopal.
His name is Giriraj.
But sometimes you call him Gopal.
No, I don't call him Gopal. His name is Giriraj.
Okay, Giriraj.
Yeah, just Giriraj, boss. So,
Yes, Prabhu, you said at that time they asked you to go to Cambodia, you are moneyless. How
Yeah.
do you get money to go there?
as I said, I get a little money from the government every month, U.S. government. So I took that and I went, and so I have to do kind of a juggling thing. But I took him. I have pictures. I didn't bring them, but I have pictures of him, and then. This is his traveling box. So he sits in here, and then I can carry him, and then his other paraphernalia I can put in my other handbag, but I carry him like this. And then in Cambodia, I took him around, and I was holding it like this, showing him everything. Look, this.
When were you in Angkor Wat? When was it?
When was I in Angkor Wat?
Yeah.
I don't know, a few years back.
Okay. Because I was there with Kala in December.
Yeah, no, I know Kala. No, He-
But Narayan was also there at that time.
he wanted me to come, but
Yeah. Yeah.
when I didn't go. Maybe one time I'll go back again.
Because they have a farm community in all over this.
Yeah. No, I didn't see the devotees when I was there. I had a different mission, you know. So. Okay. Anyone have any other question? I was going to tell you another story involving Srila Prabhupada. So as you know, Srila Prabhupada asked me to go to Japan, and so I went to Japan, and at that time the devotees, they had a temple on the top of a mountain, a small mountain. It's called Mount Takao-san. So it was to get to the temple, they had a train that, because it's so steep, it would go this way, and then you had to change to another train and go this way. It couldn't go straight up because it was so steep, and at the top there was a Buddhist temple there, but there was also the house that we had, and this was an old silk farm. So it's like you see in some of the old samurai movies where the whole house is made out of paper, and the ceilings were very high because the silkworms will make their nests coming down from the ceilings, and it didn't have any indoor plumbing, but it was very far to get to the city, or go there to get to the city. But Srila Prabhupada came, and we went to Dai Nippon Insatsu. So I told you before, Dai Nippon Insatsu is the printing company that we used to print our books at that time. And so Srila Prabhupada and I were having a meeting with the president of the company. And at that time, all the devotees, any foreign devotees who were there, they were there illegally, meaning they were on a tourist visa, so they weren't really allowed to do anything. And so Srila Prabhupada told the president of the company, he says, I want you to give this boy a visa so he can manage the printing of my books. And he can stay here and manage the printing of my books. And so, of course, they definitely agreed. And with these documents, I went to Korea and got a business visa for being in Japan. And once getting the business visa, then I was able to open a bank account. So unless you have a proper visa, you couldn't. Just like here, I cannot open a bank account because I have a tourist visa. But I was able to open a bank account, and Prabhupada wanted me to get ISKCON registered as a bona fide religious organization. But in order to do that, you had to have a building, some structure to do this with. And so I opened the bank account, and we were trying to collect money to eventually buy a house or some place, but it became very difficult. And then I showed you that picture yesterday of Prabhupada and I standing next to the Lotus building. So this was at the festival in Mayapur, the first Mayapur festival. And there I met Guru Creeper and Yasodananda, who were my friends from long ago. And I invited them to come to Japan for collecting. And they had a group of boys. And so they came to Japan and with their boys. And then Guru Creeper and I, we went out wearing karmi clothes, and we went to a real estate agent, and we found a nice big house in the center of the city. And so we rented that house, and then every day Guru Creeper's Sankirtan boys would go out and collect money, and slowly, they'd come back, and at the end of the day I would count all the money, and most of the coins that we got were 100 yen coins. So now maybe 100 yen is $1. But we would have these money bags. So I'd have one or two money bags full of coins, and I was going to Japanese school at that time. So before I would go to the bank, I would take these coins to my class, and I put them on the table, and then afterwards I would go to the bank and give them the money, and they put them in the counting machines. Then I give them my passbook, and they would put a stamp in there, and then money started coming more and more and more and more. So not just one bag, then or 2 bags, then 3 bags, 4 bags, and so many bags. And then the bank manager, he told me, he says, "You don't worry anymore. We'll send a car to your house every day to collect the money." So it was like they had an armored car come and collected all the money, and our bank account began swelling and swelling and swelling and growing. And then eventually we had enough money to buy a house. And so we bought a small house in the countryside. And once we owned this property, then we could register the society. So I did that. I went and I was the only one who was legal, so I registered ISKCON Tokyo, and I had they call them a hanko. Hanko is like a stamp, you know. So with my name on it, I had a round one, and then on the outside I had Gopal Swami, and then in the middle I had my karmi name, Charles Paulin. So this was my stamp. And then if you do any transactions, instead of putting a signature on a contract, you put your stamp. So once this was done and we had the money to buy the house, we registered ISKCON. ISKCON became a recognized religious organization. So, and then money, as I said, money started coming in, and then because of that money, this temple was built. You know, all the money that was collected in Japan. So
They had the time Japanese devotees.
there was no Japanese devotees. Only Banu, and he was actually Canadian, but there was no Japanese devotees. Just a bunch of Americans who were doing the collecting.
The temple is still there.
The temple, we never used it as a temple because it was far away. And it by now that whole area has been developed, and so the land price is very valuable. But the house is probably been torn down. You know, it's not. It's because it's.
It didn't give money for it.
No. The land is still ours, but they never built anything on it. You know, so. But we used it to store books. We used it as a go down for storing books.
Okay, so the land is still.
The land is ours, and the land is very valuable now, because the whole Tokyo has grown so big, and then right next to our land is a baseball stadium, and you know, Disneyland is near there. And so
All your coins are there.
yeah, yes. Okay, so we'll stop.
Okay, can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
Not connected with anything you said today, but I remember in Vancouver one time about that Java tape when Prabhupada was saying sit properly.
Yes.
I don't know if I failed to attend the class when you spoke about that.
Yeah, I told that, yeah.
What year was that and where was it?
That was in Los Angeles, and that was before I got initiated, 1970. So those were the first words Srila Prabhupada spoke to me. So I hope you were able to get something from this class, and keep a fire burning, and don't let material energy extinguish your love and your devotion. So become strong devotees, and then maybe your Giriraj at your house will talk to you, tell you to do something.
It's not in this case. Prabhupada said to Sudama, I think perhaps, that whoever go to Japan, he will take back to Godhead, something like this.
That I don't know, but Japan was the first Asian country that even before anything happened in India, we had a temple devotees in Japan.
But Sudama went before.
Yeah, Sudama was there before me, and then he was married to Chintamani, and then he left, and then I didn't go to Japan until 1973. So
And Sudama went.
no, they were gone. He was already gone.
But like when? 70s when?
Yes, in 1970, Prabhupada went to Japan, and he arranged to print. So there were some devotees already there at that time, in 1970, but no Japanese devotees. We had some, like hippie boys coming. That would come sometimes. Japanese.
How long you stayed there?
18 years.
In Japan, you stayed for 18 years.
Yeah.
Did you get any Gurijan and
Burijan was already gone, so he went to Hong Kong. I went to Hong Kong also, but after Prabhupada sent me there, and Guru Creeper's boys came, then eventually everyone was kicked out of Japan, but I stayed, and so on.
for 18 years. For 18 years.
Yeah.
Do you speak Japanese?
もちろん、日本語を喋ります。
So that now many Japanese devotees are there. I know you got Gita Govinda, the girl from the city.
Yes. So
Yeah, she married Indranuja.
Then-
They're still living together in North
Yeah.
Japan.
but anyway,
Have you ever been invited to go back?
I went back a couple times. I left Japan in 1993, and so I went from there. I went to Secunderabad to be the temple president in Secunderabad, and then I came here. So at that time, after
Okay, that was after Japan.
yeah,
When I met
yeah,
you. I never knew.
yeah.
So I guess if you want to find out ISKCON's history in Japan, the best book would be Burijan's book.
No,
Really?
if you want to know the history of Japan, it's me.
No, but I mean in the written form.
No.
Really?
He stayed there only a short time, and there was nothing going on. So he doesn't know. He doesn't know.
How would you compile it?
Kavichandra sent some of his disciples from Israel
Oh,
to interview me about Japan, because he wanted the Japanese devotees to listen, because they, all these things, he didn't even know, because he heard me give a class once in talking about some of these things. And so everything that happened in Japan, basically, I started it. So
Or is there any temple in China?
well, I want to go to China, but when I was in the closest I got was I went to Hong Kong, and that was under British rule, but at that time Mao Zedong was still in charge of China, so there would be no possibility to go. But sometime in the future I will go there. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. And you should take darshan of Giriraj.